Hey guys, it's Phil coming back at you with another video. Today, I'm back. I'm excited. Hopefully everyone's doing well, taking care of themselves, practicing self-care, building you guys' self up, becoming the best possible version of yourself, because I know 40 people have done it since my last video. It's so amazing to me. 40 people walked in the exam, kicked it directly in the chest, got the job done, did exactly what they thought they were going to do, and are on the other side, living their best lives. And they are as follows: Valerie P., Darcy W., Teresa M., Rachel F., Aurora W., Melissa R., Curtigas T., Cindy L., Devin J., Tammy Y., Emily B., Ashlyn L., BF, Jennifer S., Belinda L., Nim K., Megan W., Meredith W., Kate K., Jillian M., Mary K., Bertha K., Melissa A., Ryan F., Rosemary M., Amanda J., Alex M., Jody B., Nancy S., Lisa B., Sarah K., Rochelle B., Christine W., Stephanie S., Kristen S., Yanni L., Kristen S., Katie M., Deborah M., and Heidi C. I'm so excited, man, because so many people on that list weren't sure if they could do it. It was their first time, maybe it was their multiple time walking in. They were like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure if I can trust myself, or people told me I should be doing this, or people told me I should be doing that. And then they doubled down on themselves, got exactly what they needed to do, walked in there, trusted themselves, even when they were doubting themselves, reminding themselves nothing can dictate whether you pass or fail the exam besides the exam. They implemented strategies. They followed their process even when they were doubting themselves. They had so much to lose, and they have gained so much since walking into the exam and getting the job done. And it blows my mind how many people are just repping and rocking in the Fill in the Gaps community. So from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate every single one of you. And if you're like, Phil, I want to rep and rock with you as well, how can I do that? The easiest way to do that are the Sunday study groups, and the next ones coming up are as follows: 2.7, acronym and practice questions; 2.14, research, program development, and program evaluation; 2.21, human developmental theories; 2.28, defense mechanisms; 3.7, community interventions; and 3.14, practice questions. And if you want any information for those, click the link in the description or send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. And if you're like, Phil, what the heck goes on in those Sunday study groups? I've heard a lot about them, but I'm not really sure what they are. So we go through content related to whatever the topic of the session is, and then we go through 10 practice questions to make sure that you guys are able to not just memorize, because I never tell people to memorize anything, but be able to recognize and apply them to practice questions that are going to push and mold you to where you need to go, and B, to walk into the exam and kick it directly in the chest. And if you're not able to attend them live, you can receive recordings of those sessions when you submit payment and add your list to the email, and you get the materials and the recording after the session. And that's how that is done. And if you're like, I don't see the topic that I want on that list, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, and you can access the library of the previous sessions that I've done in the past. And if you guys are wondering, yes, I do still offer individual tutoring. My schedule tends to book out 4 to 5 weeks in advance, though. So if you're trying to get some tutoring, make sure that you plan ahead. And if you want information about that, click the link in the description down below. And if you're like, hey, my exam is before then, I can add your name to the tutoring waiting list as well. So send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. And I'm not doing a one-day course this month because I have a lot going on. I'm presented at a couple of conferences. I'm preparing for the course that I'm teaching at the University of Michigan, which I'm so happy for. And I just don't want to stretch myself too thin. So I'm not doing a one-day course this month. But if you want to benefit from a previous one-day course and get the recording, because that has been the most successful thing that I've come up with and released, because so many people have done other courses and stuff, and then they attend that course and they're just so mind-blown how much information and strategies and techniques and practical stuff are actually in that. So if you want to get a copy of that, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, and I'll send you the information. And for those that do not know, Audible has continued to sponsor both my YouTube videos and my podcast. So if you want to support me as well as support them, go to my Audible affiliate link at audibletrial.com/fillinthegaps. Sign up for the 30-day free trial and you get a free book. And that's the easiest way to support me. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And if you're like, Phil, what the heck is Audible? I always hear you talking about it. Audible is an easy way to get information and knowledge on the go. So if you're busy just like me and you want to still grow and become the best possible version of yourself, Audible is an easy way to supplement that. So again, an easy way to support me is go to my Audible affiliate link at audibletrial.com/fillinthegaps. Sign up for the 30-day free trial. Get yourself a free book. And if you're like, Phil, I want to do that. I want to support you. I want to get the free book, but I'm not sure what book I should get. There are a couple that I would recommend, and they are as follows: The Alchemist, The Power of Habit, The Archer, and Outliers. Each one has different lessons and things that you can implement in your life, both personally and professionally, to become the best possible version of yourself and get the job done and kick things in the chest, so that way you can keep growing and keep pushing yourself into a better version of yourself. And if you want to get additional information about stuff that I put out as well, I do have a podcast. I've brought it back from the dead, so I am uploading on that as well. And it's at Fill in the Gaps on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. So if you want to rep and rock with me in that way, that's a possibility, as well as check out my Facebook page. That's the easiest way to be up to date on all the stuff that I do, and that is at Fill in the Gaps as well. And if you've been liking the stuff that I've been putting out, smash the thumbs up button down below. Just hit it. It's an easy way for other people to be able to discover the channel and for it to grow. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below. It's amazing how many people have done that, and how big and how amazing the Fill in the Gaps community is. And also, do me a favor, drop a comment down below about something positive, something that you want to accomplish, or something that you think other people should know, because the way that we grow is to keep sharing positivity, because the more positive vibes and positive thoughts, the more positive results. And you don't know how many people are down in the comment section below reading that may not be feeling good about their situation. And I don't want to be the one that's always sharing all the positivity. So share anything that you can down below. And there's something that's been heavy on my heart as well, because a lot of times people, whether it's in the individual tutoring sessions or they're just sending me emails, they're like, Phil, this person told me I should be doing this. This person's telling me that I need to be doing this. This person said this material is the best for me. I haven't been successful with those things, or I'm not sure, and it doesn't really align with how I learn, or this material is confusing for me, or this person said I should always pick this answer. And to that, I always tell them, do not let outside information or outside sources that don't actually resonate with you influence your situation, because it can taint your situation and drag you down and poison you to not be able to walk into the exam and do the best possible thing that you can. And what do I mean by that? Because if you're implementing strategies, techniques, and materials that do not actually work for you, you're actually dragging yourself down, because when you walk into the exam, you're not going to be thinking about the strategy that actually works for you. You're going to be thinking about all these different strategies, and you're going to be all over. So we need to be like a sniper and just lock and load and take it down and get the job done. So do not let anyone tell you what you need, and only you know what's best for you. So get the job done and give yourself credit even when you do not feel like you need it, because way too many times people will have too many materials. They'll drag themselves down. They'll overwhelm themselves. They'll walk into the exam. They may not pass. They freak out and they say, this is an opportunity for me. I shouldn't be doing these things, or this person told me that I should do this, or this person's trying to sell me this, or this person's trying to do this. And you ultimately have to just put on the earmuffs and say, what do I specifically need? Was there a deficit in knowledge? Was it deficit in strategies and techniques? And do I have everything that I need? And if the answer is yes, you do not need to spend another single dollar on anything. You simply just have to utilize the stuff that you have. So you have to trust yourself. You have to double down. You don't need any shortcuts. You don't need any BS. You just need to walk in and sit yourself down and say, what do I specifically need? And I may not be getting answers correct, or I may not feel like I'm doing everything right, but you have to start rewarding yourself. And what do I mean by this? Because we're a profession that don't often give ourselves enough credit for the amazing things that we do, because we often are in a lot of situations that are crisis, or we're stressed out and we're burnt out and we're not doing everything that we need to do, but you have to find a way to reward yourself. And what does that look like? And that may just be doing more self-care. That may just be listening to something. That may be reading something. That may be taking some time off. And you're like, Phil, why are you telling me to take time off when I should be studying as much as I possibly can? And that may be true, but you taking time off and giving back to yourself could be a better way to build yourself up than burn yourself down and add too many things and overwhelm yourself and stress yourself out, because you are the only person that knows you specifically. And if somebody's trying to convince you that there's a need that may not actually be there, they may not be trying to help you. They may just be trying to gain something out of you, what's not the goal. Because when they are just trying to gain something and you have an additional thing in your backpack that may not be helpful, you are often just going to walk into the exam, be overwhelmed, drag yourself down, tear yourself down, and just be like, I can't do this, when we need you to be built up, be growing, and becoming the best possible version of yourself to be able to get to the best result that you possibly can. So give yourself credit. Do not let anyone tell you specifically what you need. And if they feel like they're going to be prescribing you something, they're not a doctor. And they need to be making sure that they're actually listening to specifically what you need. And that's a true social worker. What do you need? What could supplement? And you may not need anything. You just have to identify your own strengths and powers and gifts and talents, because you are powerful, you are gifted, you are talented, and you do have gifts and you have strengths. Everyone has strengths. We just don't often see our strengths. We often notice our weaknesses more than our strengths, and it leads us to feel weak when we are actually strong, and we are stronger than we give ourselves credit for. And you have to be able to willing to look yourself in the face and say, I gave everything that I got, and I may not be where I need to. I haven't experienced the right things yet, but I am going to experience the right things. I am going to get them put in positions. I am going to be a better person than I was yesterday. I don't have to be better than I was today because I haven't finished it, because I'm not going to critique myself in the moment, because I may be critiquing myself so much so that I don't even believe in myself at this moment that I have exactly what I need. So you have to finish experiences. You have to go through things in order to have it, because in order to have experience, you must have experienced something to be able to do that. And if this isn't your first time walking into the exam, give yourself credit. Take the butt kicking shoes off, put them to the side, and say, this is the last day I'm done beating up on myself, because I need to start beating up on these materials in order to make them mobilize and become what I need them to be, so I can walk into the exam and be the person that I know I should be for myself and my situation and the people around me. Because this exam isn't just about me, because it's going to unlock doors for me and the people to come after me, because I've sacrificed too much, I've given up too much, and I need to start giving myself more than I'm giving away. And if you're giving energy away in this process, you need to make sure you're replenishing yourself and giving yourself what you need to feel whole. Because again, don't let anyone tell you specifically what you need. So you have to start reflecting yourself. You have to start building yourself up. You start having to give yourself what you don't feel like you need, because you need to start doing more things for yourself to become more you, because we need you to be 100% you when you walk into that exam. And way too many times people are focusing on getting 100% on practice questions or 100% on the exam, and they're not being 100% themselves during the exam, which is going to lead them to be less favorable than if they just doubled down, believed in themselves, walked themselves through the process that they thought. And if you haven't passed the exam, or you walk in and give it 100%, you have to lock and load like this last attempt never happened, because each attempt is different, and you have to be willing to almost have amnesia and say, yup, I need that attempt to get me closer, because you're the closest that you've ever been to passing your exam. You are the closest that you've ever been to passing your exam right now, because we can't go back. We're not going to look back, because if you look back, you're not able to look and see the opportunity in front of you, because there's more things in front of you, because you have so much talent and gifts that if you get in the right situations and have the right amount of time, it's fermenting to grow and be more exponentially better than it would have been if you got it right now. And I want everyone to succeed, but you have to be willing to look at yourself and say, I've done everything and I'm going to get everything. I just have to do it on the right time, and I have to put in the time. And the best way to do that is focus on myself and specifically what I need to do for myself in order to become the best possible version of myself. And that's something that's just been heavy on my heart, because way too many amazing people are getting dragged down and tore down, or told that they're not good enough, or they should be rescheduling, or this material is better for you, when you have to be willing to look yourself in the face and say, I am 100% amazing the way that I am, and I need to get in environments where people are building me up, not tearing me down, or just trying to sell me something, or just telling me that I need something, because you may not need another thing. You just have to be willing to double down and say, I'm 100% amazing the way that I am, and I may not have done the things that I thought I was going to do yet, but I will do it, and I'm going to continue doing it until I fail, and I am going to die, because the only time that you actually fail is when you stop, and the only time you should be stopping is when you are dead and you have no heartbeat, because this is your purpose, this is your heart, and you have to have the drive to be able to finish this. So hopefully that helps somebody. And if you need anything, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. I hope to see you in the Sunday study groups. Hope to see you in individual tutoring. And like I always say, without you guys, there's no me. So I appreciate every single one of you guys. And the rest of this video is me talking to people who are struggling to pass their exams, me sharing my own experience of how I walked in the exam, kicked it directly in the chest, and I have amazing people come back and share their experiences. So hopefully that's helpful for you guys as well. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the video, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video, and peace out, guys. Phil, how many times did you take the test? So this is a question that I don't really get a whole lot, and I'm surprised that I don't, but my test prep is not a traditional test prep. So the length of time that I studied was only 2 weeks, and I don't really suggest people study the way that I studied, because it was very obsessive type studying. So when I have a goal in my mind or want to accomplish something, it's very difficult for me not to give it a 100%, if not more than 100%. So what did that 2 weeks look like? I was going over questions every single second that I had. So when I had a no-show at work because I'm a mental health and substance use therapist, I was studying. When I was eating lunch, I was studying. When I was going to the bathroom, I was studying. When I was at the gym, I was studying. When I was at home, I was studying. When I was right before bed, I was studying. When I was sleeping, I was dreaming of studying. So that was what it looked like for 2 weeks. So I just went over a lot of practice questions, and that's why I'm a huge proponent of knowing how to break down the questions and analyze how to get to the answers are more important than whether you get it right or wrong. So a lot of questions I get are, Phil, I got X amount of questions wrong, or I wanted to get this many questions right out of this skill set or this set of questions. What's wrong or anything? It's like, I don't really worry about whether I got the question right or wrong, or worry about other people getting it right or wrong. It's, how did you get there? What was your process? And if you got it incorrect, it's almost a celebratory moment, because then you have a way of learning how you could get better, but also knowing that you can improve. And every time that I got a question wrong, I was actually excited, because I was like, okay, what was I doing? What are things that I can do to improve? And if I were to see this question or a similar topic of this question, how could I analyze, cut it up, and dissect it in a different way? And that is where a lot of times I don't really recommend the length of time, but I recommend the way that I study, because at the end of the day, most people, when they hear 2 weeks, they either panic or they feel comfortable. For me, I would not have been able to do a longer prep, because the way that I was studying, I was going 100% all head first into the wall. And I had so much, I guess, a sense of being content in my situation, because I took it 4 months after graduation. And I know a lot of times people say it's better to take it right after graduation, but I don't really say that there is a length of time after graduation that is most beneficial, because the exam isn't asking you to memorize or regurgitate information. It's saying, if you had this client with these presenting issues, how do you dissect it and prioritize and get them to the best possible result? Not big picture thinking, but how do you cut it up to get to the best possible answer? And I took it so soon after graduation because I tend to be somebody that procrastinates. And I was like,
yo, I need to start the 90-day clock. So if I fail, I need to be able to walk into the exam multiple times afterwards. And I think that kind of helped me out because I didn't have this sense of urgency of I need to pass it or X, Y, or Z. It was, I'm going to pass it. And when I did pass it in Michigan, you have to still wait 2 years before you're even able to collect the credential or be able to utilize the benefits of this. So that's where you have to almost analyze your situation and say, what is the length of time I need to study? How do I need to study? So I was an auditory person, so I made all of the materials and read the questions aloud to myself. So that way I was able to understand the information and dissect it as well. So I passed it on the first time. So I walked in, passed it on the first time. I had to get a 96 to pass, and I got a 113. And I kind of was super excited because at the time I knew that the highest amount that you needed to pass was 106. So when I got a 113, I was kind of like, there's no doubt that I would have passed it if you would have given me the 106 standard measure. But again, that is my just experience. So I wouldn't suggest people copying my direct and an exact experience because you guys learn in different ways and have different strengths and different ways of analyzing and dissecting things. So take what you can from that experience, but don't like stress yourself out and say, well, Phil did this and this is what he was saying worked for him. So if you're not like assessing and reflecting in what you need for your situation to feel comfortable and confident in the ways that you can improve, you almost need to add that into your regime of being able to study, because the best indicator of whether you pass or fail is yourself. And I say yourself because you're the one constant in this experience of preparing for the exam and taking the exam, because you can't take your practice materials or your previous practice tests into the exam with you, but you can take yourself. So making sure your mind is right, making sure that you're trusting yourself, not second guessing yourself, because when you second guess yourself, you almost shoot yourself in the foot from being able to walk in your gift and know that you have what it takes to be able to face this exam and that this exam isn't going to take you down. So I passed it on the first time after studying for 2 weeks, and I was super duper obsessive with it. So I would not really recommend other people doing that. But if you want to take the Phil crash course on how to do it, that's essentially it. Did you want me to share my passing experience now?
Hi, Phil. Can you hear me?
Yeah, how's it going? How's it going?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am blessed. So tell them who you are, where you're at, what exam you took, and what your experience was.
Yeah, so my name is Karina Wolf. I'm in Utah and I took the LCSW exam. I was actually just on your last well, not the last, the last one that you uploaded podcast, because I was having a lot of test anxiety. English is a second language for me, so I was really afraid to take the exam. Um, and you said some wonderful things to me, so I took it. I graduated in April, the end of April, and I took June 10th, and I passed on the first time. So yeah, that my experience. So I one of the things that you always said that really I studied for a month for my exam, a solid month. Um, and I the thing that you always said that really helped me the most was find your study style. And to me, like, I loved listening to your videos and watching, but I have to see things. I'm visual, not just listening. So when I was listening to your videos and seeing you, how you break down the questions, it really stayed with me a lot. And when I couldn't do that, I was reading the book. So I did buy the book, and I had the app. I had the Prep Pocket app, and I did do the exam prep, the practice exam, and I found that very helpful to me. But like I said, I do have a very, very high test anxiety, so I wanted to feel very prepared for it. But the thing that helped me the most during the exam was using the concept of breaking the questions down. So like you always said on your video, I read the questions 3 times. I read it once to understand what they were asking me. I read it a second time, and in my mind, I highlighted in my mind different parts of the questions. And then the third time I read it again, just on those highlighted parts, picking up to tie my question, to tie my answer back to what they were saying. Because what I found, I knew a lot of content, but that did not matter at, at all during the exam. It really was how you apply it, because the questions are so, so close. As some people that have taken, they, the option A and B, maybe there's like one word that will separate each question. So you really need to know how to apply more than how the content of the question. Am I making sense?
Yeah, and if you could provide advice to anyone that's taking the exam this week or in the upcoming weeks that has test anxiety or that's doubting themselves or not sure if their prep is going well, what would you tell them? Because on the last time that we interacted, you were like, Phil, I have no clue if this is going to go well. I'm not really sure if I'll be able to pass. Walk us through that process of transitioning from, I'm not sure if this is going to work, to, yo, I'm on the other side and I passed.
Right. So and I know it sounds cheesy, I really started believing in myself. I had a picture, I took a picture and I put it on my phone of the words pass, and I had my name with it. And every day I woke up and I did meditation. I did a maybe 15-20 minute meditation. And right after, I looked at those words and I took some practice exam, some practice questions. So I would read something from the book, or I would do some pocket prep, because I knew my test was at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I wanted to train my brain to wake up, be calm, and take the exam and have those questions. So I did that for a solid month. Every single day I woke up, I meditated, I look at that pass, and then I did at least 10 questions every single morning. I really started to believe that I was going to pass. There was no other option for me. When I walked into that building, I thought, because I have so much test anxiety, like you said, and I told you how afraid I was, I honestly was so calm, because one thing you said to me on the last video was that I was there just to pick up my past test, my result. And I really had that in my mind. I was like, I'm walking in, I know my content, and I'm here to pick up my result. And I was so calm. It was amazing. I'm still amazed how calm I was during the whole exam, because I have been more nervous for much less than that. And I didn't take breaks, and it works for different people, but I didn't feel like I needed a break. I just wanted to get through. And I went back and to the questions I flagged. And the one thing when I was going back, literally, I remember you saying, you emailed me the night before and you say, don't doubt yourself. And I went back and I was like, am I doubting myself on this? Nope. If I'm doubting myself, I would leave it as my first choice that was already there. I did not change anything. I only changed if I really remembered something that I hadn't thought about it. I did write the acronyms down, but honestly, I didn't even use it. To be very honest, it didn't work for me as much. The thing, like I say, the thing that worked for me as well, it was breaking down the questions, and I was highlighting them, in my mind, and just picking up the key information, because it's a whole story that you have. And there's 3 types of, like, they might have a whole story and 3 types of information in that story, but the question really pertains to just one part of the story, and the other 2 is just fill the sausage. That's what I called filling the sausage there. So you really, and tying your answer back to what is asking. So every time I read the question, I would say, what is this asking me? What is this asking? And if my question tied it back, then I knew I was on the right path. So that's what I did. That meditation really helped, the visualization and that belief that I was there to pick up my test. I was there to just pick up my result. I felt like it really helped me because, like I told you, I don't know anybody that has more test anxiety than I do. And I read several times that people that fail are people that speak English as a second language. So I felt like I had a lot of odds against me, but I did way better than I thought I would do.
And if you can take anything out of that, it was I was intentional, I was deliberate, I was consistent, and even when I had doubt, I just trust the process. And I wasn't afraid of the exam anymore. I was afraid that I was going to prevent myself from allowing myself to trust the process once I got there. And it's amazing, like when you trust yourself to accomplish what you have in your mind, you may not even believe it, but as long as you put the actions to get there, you are going to get there, and it's going to look way sweeter than you had ever imagined.
That's absolutely right. And that's that I found that experience for myself, and even for the friends that I have been talking to that passed, it was really about trusting in yourself. And I know it sounds cheesy because when people talk to me, I'm like, I don't trust in myself. I can't trust myself. But I'm telling you with 100% guarantee that content, you can know that book from back to back. You can have it memorized. But if you go there doubting yourself, you're not going to pass it. You just won't, because the exam, like from the best answer to the correct answer, it really is like sometimes it's and. You talk to this person and this person, and then the next question, they just flip the order of the people, and you're like, what does that, so you really got to walk in there believing that you deserved. Like you told me you said something to me like, when your back is against the wall, you don't back down. And that to me, I was like, yeah, I am afraid, but I am not afraid of this test. I was not afraid of that exam. And even though I did have the content, I honestly didn't find it to be as useful because I studied and my test had a ton of like community questions and diagnosis and community questions. It was my weakest point. So even when I saw them, I wasn't nervous because I'm like, okay, all I need to do is to break this down. And I took my time and I broke them down. I read every single question 3 times, no matter even if I knew 100% what they were, I still read it 3 times just to make sure that I wasn't being cocky or just, I read it for content. I read it for understanding. And then I read it again to tie my answer back to the question. So, and I think what you said to being consistent, I was consistent for 30 days in a row, no matter what. And when doubts started coming, I just didn't even give the time of the day to that in my mind. I knew that the consistency and the work that I was putting in was going to result in me going to go pick up something that I earned. And that's, I had that mentality for the whole thing. I really did.
And if you could provide one more piece of advice to somebody, what would you say to them?
Just believe in yourself. I think this test really is so much more. It really is not a test of knowledge, which I hate it because it's, there's so many great social workers out there that have failed this test so many times. And it's not a test of knowledge. I felt like it's a test of trust in myself, trust in my ability to believe in myself, to believe in my instincts. We are great social workers. We know what to do. And one thing that I also thought about on the exam, and I literally had this visualization in my mind that I was seeing 170 clients. So every question that I clicked, I was like, new client, whatever I applied to that last client, I started on a blank slate, and it was going to, because every client's so different. And that's something you talked about in your video. So believe in yourself. You know what to do with your clients. You know how the procedures go. Don't doubt yourself, because that I felt like this exam, it's more exam of trusting in your instincts, trusting in your ability to provide great service to our clients, than it is to show the knowledge that you have. Because I truly believe that it's not about knowledge. I really do. It's about knowing how to read the question, knowing how to tie the answer back to the question, and understanding what the question is asking, and not getting distracted by the storytelling of the question. They will tell you, you know, like, a teenager mom is doing this and this and this, and she brings in the teenager, and then they ask about something specifically about the mom, and the, you know, and in the answers, they will have options there that treats the teenager and the mom. But really, that's not what they are asking. They are only asking about the mom. So the mom is your client. But even though the question, the whole story of the question was about the teenager and the mom. So it just, I feel like it just means, it's just trying to throw you out a little bit. So I always ask yourself, when you read the question, say, what is this question asking me? That's what I did. What is this question asking me? And I would say it. I had to wear a mask because I just did it right now during COVID, which it was kind of great because I was whispering out loud, what is this question asking me? And I was able to tie every question back to the answer. Every answer back to the question, I mean.
Awesome. And thank you so much for coming back and sharing your experience.
Thank you so much, Phil. You helped so much. You really did. So I'm so grateful for you and for what you're doing. Thank you.
Phil, you helped me pass the LSW exam on my first attempt. Now I have a LCSWA, and I'm wondering what's the biggest difference between the master's versus clinical exam. Thanks. So I get this question quite a bit. And for those that don't know, the LSW is essentially the master's exam. So the master's exam can have multiple different names, LSW, LMSW, etc. And then the clinical exam can have multiple different names as well. So it could have the LMSWC, it could have the LCSW, it can have the LCSWI, etc. So the main difference between the master's and clinical exam is going to be how you're going to be interacting within the situation. So the category that is vastly different, and you can go on the ASWB website and check out the blueprints, it's going to be how you interact. So one is going to have intervention, diagnosis, and treatment plan, and the other one is going to have client intervention and case management. So just being mindful of when you have different questions, but the majority of it is going to be very similar, and the way that you break down the questions and get to the answer is going to be similar as well. So if you pass the master's level exam, I don't want to say that it is going to be very easy for you to pass the clinical exam, because every exam is different. However, I don't want you to think it is another beast that you have to entirely change everything, because I'm a very less is more type person and would say the techniques you utilize to pass the master's level exam will be useful and helpful for you when you take the clinical level exam. So starting from there and then just going through the different possibilities and brushing up on things. But again, the biggest indicator of whether you pass or fail the exam is the actual exam. So you can study heavily on multiple different topics and multiple different practice questions, but until you actually get into your specific exam, you will not know what to expect. So wrapping your head around of how to understand your process and being comfortable and willing to execute your process is very important. So to answer your question in a very short way, there's very few differences between the two. So don't add extra energy or focus on the uncertainty of the difference, because there's not a whole lot of difference. How much time do you recommend studying a day, week, and month?
Hi, this is Yolanda Barisevic. I'm from New York City. And I survived COVID. I mean, I didn't get it, but I survived. It's so almost gone from here. And yes, we're going to stage 2 on Monday. It was very stressful. So going to the point, I took my test last. My battery is going to leave me soon, so let me go fast. I took my test for the first time. I graduated September 2019. I took my test October 2019. I studied 2 hours a day for 2 months, and I need a 99. I got a 98. Only because since I did clinical social work, I was most focusing on clinical aspect of human behavior and medications and disorders. And I have a lot of questions about how to implement programs, how to do policy on that, and I did not study that. So I think that's my weakness. Since I did clinical social work, I was focusing on clinical and all that. So I suggest that you study everything because you don't know how your test's gonna come out. I honestly failed that part only, policy, how to implement policies, how to create programs. I have a lot of questions about in a housing development, if how in a high school for LGBT community, how you create a program to help them, how you create a program to help people in housing and all that. And I wasn't expecting that. It was really so. Now I registered to take it back again, and because of COVID, they pushed me back to November 4. So I think I'm going to focus more on that policy area, and that's it.
So you took the test, you failed by 1 point, and now you're wondering how much time you need to study again?
Yes, because I studied for 2 months every day, 2 hours, and I thought I was like really ready for it. I was so confident and like, yes, I got this. And I have my school social work, the provisional license, and I'm ready to be, I'm bilingual. So I'm thinking I have my bilingual extension. I'm ready to go. And I'm like, I need this, you know? So do you think I should keep doing 2 hours a day or focus more on policies and that, or keep studying the whole book?
So let me ask you this. What was your process during the actual exam?
What do you mean by that?
Like, how did you navigate the questions? How did you feel during the exam, etc.? So that kind of gives a starting point.
I feel very confident. I thought that I was ready. I took multiple practice exam and I passed them. And like I said before, my problem was about implementing programs. I don't know why they have so many questions about implementing programs in that test. I wasn't expecting that.
So I definitely would not recommend honing in specifically only on one topic.
Okay.
And why I say that, and you're going to say, Phil, well, my last exam had a ton of community questions, right?
Mhm.
Your next exam could have 0 community questions. So if you focused all of your energy only on community questions and you saw 0 community questions, how would you feel?
I will feel even worse than I felt before.
It'd be
I
almost like a
was
truck
ready.
hit you prior to the exam and you're like, well,
Yes.
what am I
Yes.
going to do now? And that's where I always tell people, and I needed to publish a theory. I joke around, but people that fail by less than 10 points tend to blame themselves and that they need to do 100% more things. People that fail by 10 or more are often blaming the exam and that it's a racket and it's unnecessary and it's BS. So in this
Yeah.
particular situation, with you failing by 1 point, I'm going to tell you, do the exact same thing that you did last time, but you may not have
Okay.
to put in the amount of energy and hours and all the things that you need to do. Because
Okay.
at this moment, if you put in 2 hours every single day for 60 days, that was 120 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
you don't have to put a dynamite stick in the bottom of the house and blow it all up. You just simply have to change the kitchen sink because we need it to look a little bit different than it does now.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you
So
very much.
So you're in a better position than you think. And that's where people that fail by so little, it's almost a mind game of like, if I would have answered this community question differently, or if I would have answered this one differently. And it's like, but you don't even know if you got the community questions right or wrong. And when you focus and try to analyze and beat yourself up based on the things that we don't know, and I say you don't know because we didn't have the right or wrong answers when you were going through the test. So I would say to double down on the same exact do the same exact thing that you did with the same intensity, but answer these 3 questions before even begin studying. The first one, how much time does my schedule warrant? And this is going to differ for multiple people. Some people have 1 hour, some people have 2 hours, some people have 15 minutes, some people have 30 minutes every single day that they could dedicate to studying. And the second, and almost the most important question is, how much time can I study and actually retain and gain from that information that I just input into my body? Because if you're putting in 2 hours of study time every single day, you're only able to retain an hour of that. You would have been better off only studying for that 1 hour and putting forth that extra hour into self-care, into something else that would build you up, rather than just doing the law of numbers, doing the law of efficiency rather than quantity. And then the third possibility is, or question, which is the second most important question, is what is your learning style, and have you been honing in on what you need to do at that moment? So if you're a visual learner and tactile learner, you utilizing a book, reading it, touching it, feeling it, being able to apply it to practice questions and getting that exposure, then go for it. But if you're an auditory person and you haven't been tapping into your auditory way, maybe you have been because you're reading the book out loud or you have an audiobook, etc., you want to make sure you're leading into your learning style, because your learning style is going to help you retain more information, which was the second consideration. And then if you're utilizing your learning style, it could speed up the amount of time that you need to study. And again, you're in a better position than you think. So just analyzing yourself, dissecting it, and knowing that you were close, so you don't have to make big changes, but with small changes, big impacts will come about that. And if you need anything along the way, just send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. I'm here to share my experience.
Hi, Phil, it's Candace. I'm here.
How's it going? How's it going?
Oh, it's going real good. So I won't be long. A lot of what I was going to say was already shared, so I don't want to repeat those things. But I guess what I'm seeing most, especially like in the chat, and I'm a part of a social work group on Facebook, a lot of the questions are around like how to prepare and what everyone's process is. And so for me, I'm one of those people where I have test anxiety, and I can study my heart out to an exam and go completely blank. And so, like the other person who was just on talking about her passing experience, I studied consistently probably for a good 30 days. So my test was originally on April 30th, and then COVID happened. It had to be rescheduled. All the future dates were taken. All that was taken and all that was left was in May. So I took the latest date in May as I could. So I passed on May 22nd. And so I went hardcore for a good 4 weeks. And for me, hardcore was, I know myself, and you have to know yourself too. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, is how someone else prepared is not going to be the same way you prepared. Like, you really have to know yourself. So I'm not one of those people where I can sit down for 4 hours and study and retain that information. That's not me. So I cut it down to maybe about an hour a day. And I did it maybe Monday through Friday, and I gave myself the weekend for a break. I kind of ramped it up a little bit the week leading up to testing. The day before, I didn't do anything heavy, just to allow myself to have a break. So your journey is your own, and you have to know what really works for you. So I know people purchased programs, and I know someone who spent like almost $300 for a program, and I passed the test. I was like, girl, I wish you would have told me, because I would have told you, like, you know, that may not have been necessary for you. Some programs do work, and you do have to kind of find that out for yourself. But for me, I had to simplify things, and I didn't have $200 to spend on a program. So, you know, I used the ASWB prep, the study guide, and then I made my own outline from the information in there. And then I made flashcards and things like that. I came across Phil's his YouTube videos, and then started participating in the study groups, which are hugely important, because like was stated before, it's not about your knowledge necessarily. You should have a kind of baseline knowledge on some things is good. In particular areas where you feel like you're not knowledgeable, those are the areas I focused on, but it's really about how you answer the question. What is it asking you, and are you paying attention to detail? Because it can be off by one word, and that makes a difference in what answer you're choosing. And you will 100% of the time, or close to, will be able to at least dwindle it down to 2 answers, and of the 2 you can come up with your best guess. So for me, I had to protect myself. I'm one of those people where, like, if I hear other people's horror stories, then it starts to replay in my mind. So I had to protect myself. I couldn't listen to someone, they're on their last attempt and this is it. Like, I couldn't listen to those kind of stories. I couldn't read about them. So I protected my mind from it. I did a lot of self-talk. Every day I told myself that I passed the exam, all the way leading up to that day. So it was a lot of self-talk. And like I said, I was a part of a community, a social work group, and people were posting that they passed, and it encouraged me. And so I also didn't tell a lot of people, because that puts pressure on you, because then you start having people ask you, like, well, how did you do? And all that. So in your mind, you have all this pressure, like, oh, I have to pass, because all these people are going to wonder, what happened. So I didn't tell a whole lot of people about it. And I did take the practice exam. I followed Phil's advice. I didn't take it for the purpose of passing. I took it to simulate the experience. It really is the same software. So when you get to your testing day, that's one less thing on your mind that you're trying to figure out how to use the software. I also used it to pace myself, like giving myself a certain amount of maybe 60 seconds to review the question, then answer or flag. So I used it to learn how to pace myself. For my exam, I had to wear a mask, and I wore headphones. So I wore a mask and headphones when I took my practice exam, just to know my comfort level. And so I had a pretty high score on the practice exam, but I told myself, like, don't be overconfident with that, because then you can kind of set yourself backwards. So I just, most of all, want to encourage people to not to tailor their own experience from someone else's.
So if you were looking at somebody, or somebody came to you and was like, yo, I heard you share during this study group, and I'm seeing a lot of people fail on these Facebook groups, and I'm feeling super discouraged, super unmotivated, what would you say to them?
Get out of that Facebook group, number one. And if you have to write it down, post it on your doors in your house, if you have to speak it to yourself every day, whatever it is, you have to create that positivity for yourself. I told myself I do not have room and space to fail. Now, it is okay if you don't, of course, because you can take it again. But I didn't give myself permission to think that way. I told myself, we're only doing this one time, that's it. And even if it doesn't work out, it's okay. I can always pick myself back up again and try again. I did a lot of deep breathing. I had to do it during the exam, because your heart rate starts to go up. And so for anyone who's experiencing something, like I was using the pocket prep, and that was giving me anxiety. And so I had to stop using it. So whatever's not working for you, just discontinue it.
And if somebody's out there saying, like, man, I seen this guy on YouTube, I'm kind of afraid to reach out to him, what would you say?
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Phil is so accessible, and he responds, or whoever you use. I had someone else a YouTube video watching, and I had sent a message and they respond. Like, most people who are offering their support for studying, they're going to be responsive to you. So the only way you're going to hold yourself back is if you don't even try at all. So try, reach out, and they will respond to you.
And if you had one more piece of advice for everybody, what would you say?
It was something I heard on the study group before, the last study group I took. It was similar to this, before I took my exam. It was a gentleman on here, and he said, "Don't let the test bully you." And I took that, and I incorporated that every day. I'm not letting this test bully me. And I sat down in front of that computer and I told the test, I said, "You are not going to bully me. I've been in the field for a long time." And I'm like, I know what I'm doing. Like, I had to be confident in myself. And so just know that this test is not bigger than you. It absolutely is not. And don't let it be in your mind. Don't let it be bigger than you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming back and sharing your experience.
Thank you.
And if you need anything, just reach out. I passed my LICSW clinical exam here in Massachusetts on my first try. Phil, everyone in the groups were amazingly helpful.
Hey, Phil, it's Mandy. Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, what's up, what's up?
So I don't know how I had stumbled on you months ago, but it was probably the best thing because like I was very much in my head. I had joined in on the session. I think it was Memorial Day, and I was testing the next Monday. And I used a lot of your videos on YouTube. I came into some of the paid groups here, and it was hearing from other social workers that had struggled with failing and their anxieties. I was kind of playing those things in my head. And really like the main tenor that came away from all of that was the reminder that this is one test on one day. We are never going to be perfect on one day. And if we fail it that one day, we fail it. It doesn't take away from all of our skills, all of our abilities. Like Candace said, like I had to get out of my own head. It was not, like I kept trying to sit down and study for more than an hour or two at a time, and that's just not me. And I was almost stressing myself out more trying to do marathon studying because that's what the NASW prep person said. Oh, you shouldn't shortchange yourself. Study in bursts of the same length of time that your test itself will be. And it just, all of those things were just really freaking me out. And I can't say enough to everybody in this group. Keep coming, keep doing Phil's sessions. You will be in your test and you will see a question and you will hear Phil in your head, bad vibes. Like it just is a mantra that kind of really helped out a lot. And my exam ended up, I kept feeling like I was going to test forever. It was 170 questions. And when I got past 140, I'm like, is this ever going to stop? But it all seemed to be vignettes. It wasn't anything that I had really felt like I specifically needed to study. I thought of like the things that I think it was Yolanda who maybe talked earlier, you know, like what portion to study. Like, I don't know these things. I studied things I didn't think I knew, and they were not on the test at all. I think it's a mental game. I really think that we need social work kind of, we all tend to be very island off. And so your group, aside from the study questions, which were amazing, and hearing kind of your breakdown of questions and being able to kind of, nope, that's a bad vibe answer. Don't do that one. It was also knowing that there's this whole cohort of people in the same situation as me. And I did, like Candace, taking a breath, you know, when I was about, I went through the prep up for the exam, you know, like all the little, here's how the test works. And then I took a deep breath and I did some questions, and then I would stretch a little bit. And it was very much a mind game. I agree with Candace wholeheartedly that you really have to find your study plan and just stick with it. Don't second guess yourself, because it was really easy to go down that rabbit hole and get in my head. And once I kind of like refocused, everything went really smoothly. But you never know what's going to be on the test. You can't, you know, the test that pops up in front of you might be the test that just no amount of studying can prep you to do, and you might fail it. And it doesn't mean you're a bad social worker. It just means you had a bad test day.
So walk me through that mindset change though. So you go to an NASW sponsored event. Somebody tells you that you need to be studying 4 hours at a time.
Yep.
What was the transition piece for you like when you're like, yo, this isn't working for me. I'm going to step into something that's uncomfortable for me and actually trust myself to be able to execute?
I think for me, I kept like, I was never, even in school, I was not a marathon studier. And it was either I went in and took the test and I either knew it or I didn't. But me trying to cram and study things has never historically worked for me. So for the first couple of months after I took the NASW sponsored thing and I was letting him kind of be in my head of have these long study sessions, I'm like, no, I'm going to read the book. I'm going to make my crazy colored note drawings because I'm a colorful note taker. And when I feel my mind wandering, I'm going to be done. Like, I'm not going to try and force myself through it. If I find myself deciding, okay, it's time to watch TV or it's time to go play with the dog or whatever, I'm just going to go with it. I'm not going to say, no, I set the timer at 2 hours and I have to get to 2 hours because when I go for the test, I won't be able to get up and distract myself. I had to remember the things that have worked for me. And there was a big part of it too. I decided to sit in and study for this big long marathon day on Memorial Day. And then I get an email that Phil's having a session online. And, you said, just relax. You're a week out from testing. Like, it's kind of going to be what it is. And don't stress over it. And it was just hearing everybody say, stop stressing. Kind of like the permission to stop stressing about it from fellow social workers, all striving for that same exact goal.
Isn't that kind of interesting though, that we meet with clients, we help people, we meet them where they're at, we assess their needs, develop their strengths, but it's difficult for ourselves to do it and say, this is what I need to do for my situation. I'm not going to let this other person outside of me tell me what I need to do for myself. Like, isn't that wild?
It really is. We say it all the time that we are crap at taking our own advice. Like, we struggle. I don't know what it is about how we almost self-burn out, like, to ourselves. Like, we don't even give ourselves permission sometimes to relax. And so that it was coming in and listening to the groups and being like, oh my gosh, everybody's stressing out. Like, why are we all stressing out about them? And I was just fortunate to have that one final group with you guys. And I listened to I downloaded the YouTubes onto my phone before I left the house. And I listened to them on the hour-long drive to the test so that I had you in my head the whole way. And for me, I was very happy that it worked out. And when I clicked that button and it said passed, I had to contain shouting because that's not nice to other people.
And if you had one more piece of advice for everybody, what would you say? Somebody that is testing soon or testing next week or is feeling unmotivated right now, what would you say to them?
I would say exactly what you guys said the Monday before my test. Relax about it. You are not, it's almost like at this point, you are a full cup and you are not going to pour any more in. It's just going to overflow. So focus on yourself for the next week. My wife and I trained more with the dog. We kind of relaxed the rest of the week. I ended up having to work the day before the test, but even then we took the dog out for playtime rather than me saying, no, I really have to study for like 3 or 4 hours. Like, if your test is coming up in the next week or two, remind yourself of the reasons you're testing, not work related. Like, you didn't just go into this to go have a job. You went into it because it's your passion, your focus, whatever the social justice is about it that brought you to it. Remember those things, not the job specific stuff, because that's what was, really helpful for me, is to say, no, I'm doing this for my family so that I can have a better career. Of course, we're doing it for a career, but not for a job specific reason. I'm not getting this LCSW so that I can bill more clients. I'm doing it so that I can be more fulfilled personally, and that helps my family.
So kind of having a why about it and being calm and comfortable with yourself rather than pent up, built up, driving yourself into the ground and saying, do or die right now.
Yep, very much so.
Well, thank you so much for coming back and sharing your experience.
You are welcome, Phil. You guys are great. You're in good hands with Phil.
And if you need anything in the future, please, please, please reach out.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.